Hello, my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and today we're speaking with drummer Adam Smith from the Supertramp tribute band Fool's Logic. Now, I guess a good place to start, Adam, the interview off is if you could tell us how you first got into the music of Supertramp.
Well, I've been into Supertramp since I was a teenager, since they came out in late 70s, or at least hit the airwaves in the late 70s. I was already driving a car. I'm an old guy, I'm 51, so I was a big fan of the band's music, and I'm a lifelong musician, so they're the kind of band that catches the musician's ear, and that's how I fell in love with them. They just really appealed to my musical sense.
And I was curious, when you first, when you heard Supertramp for the first time, when you heard, was it a specific song, or had you just heard a bunch of band's music over, on the radio over a period of time?
I heard them on the radio the first time, and I'm pretty sure "Long Way Home" was the first thing I heard them do on the radio. Although that might not be 100% accurate, because I think "Crime of the Century" was in my head before then, but I know "Long Way" was a real impactful tune for me of theirs when that hit the radio. So I guess I'll say tacitly familiar with them at that point, and then as "Breakfast in America" hit the airwaves, so that was, that just cemented them.
Now I gotta ask you, because when we set up this interview for tonight over the phone a couple of nights ago, I was telling you that part of the reason I wanted to interview you is, there's a lot of tribute bands around these days, and there's like dozens of Led Zeppelin and Ozzy Osbourne tributes and stuff like that. But and I was mentioning you're the only Supertramp tribute that I was even aware of out here in the LA area, and you're telling me that there's a reason for that. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, the catalog is. I think it's not as easy to play as virtually every other tribute that's out there. And there are exceptions, of course. If you're a Yes tribute, you're getting in as deep. Because Supertramp had progressive rock roots, so those guys, Breakfast was real mainstream, but the instrumentation, at least for the records, demands 6 people to do everything that they did on the recordings, and that's a big band. Most of the tribute bands that are out there are 4-piece, I think.
Yeah.
I would say by and large, or 5 at the most. So the other problem that you have with Supertramp is the same problem that you have if you want to put together a Yes or a Rush tribute, and that is you need a high vocal for your lead. Fortunately for us, Supertramp had 2 lead singers, and so the one is easy to do, and I sing the Rick Davies vocal, and then the hard voice to find, and it would be a bonus, of course, if they played keys and or guitar, is the Roger Hodgson vocal, and he's got a super high voice, to say the least. They're known as castratos, those voices. Their voices didn't change when the rest of ours did as boys growing up, and it's very rare for that to happen. So it's a tough band to pull off vocally, and then you've got to have a couple other guys in the band that can sing harmony really well. And so it just took a yeoman's effort to put this band together. I started it a year ago, May, and we really didn't get it rolling full force until many months later, actually into November of last year. So I think that's the effort. If you want to put together a Tom Petty band, you can do that pretty quick. An Eagles band, you can do that pretty quick.
And so,
although that Don Henley vocal is pretty special, it's not particularly high or tough to find. But that Roger Hodgson vocal, that's a tough copy, and I think that's why there's not that many. There's a couple in Europe and a couple we hear of in Canada, but the ones in Canada don't seem to be working. So,
and then I was going to ask you, being a drummer, being a drummer is, kind of like it's real physical. You got to be like an athlete. So, does it ever get hard, playing the drums and singing lead at the same time?
Mm-hmm. It's not. It isn't for me. I'm not saying that to be flippant. I've always been able to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's just something that you're wired to be able to do. You can do it or you can't, and so it comes pretty natural to me.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, what kind of responsive has the band gotten so far? Like when you guys go out and play, you get a pretty big crowd every time.
Yeah, we get good crowds. Another hurdle that a Supertramp Tribute has to overcome, and there's a few, notwithstanding the Supertramp's own management, but we can touch on that in another part of the interview. The hurdle is that when you say Supertramp to people on the street, you say, we're a Supertramp, and they go, oh yeah, no, didn't they do, and they'll name one of the five big tunes.
Yeah.
And then we'll name off the other ones, and they'll, to a person, they'll go, oh yeah, I know that, and I love that song. And so, they've been out of the public eye for quite some time in any meaningful way. They do still tour, actually, but separately, of course. Roger with his band and Supertramp, with Rick and the rest of the guys, and but not very often, and they don't generally canvass the country. And so there's a learning curve that we have to share with people. Once we're in front of them, though, the response is just incredible. We just played El Paso last Thursday night at a place called Speaking Rock Entertainment Center, and this venue is fantastic. They do tributes every Thursday and Saturday night there. The crowd was filled with, I'll say, 50-somethings, a good many of which were wearing Anthrax and Metallica T-shirts.
Wow, that's something.
And they were practically singing every song we played. So it was a real surreal gig that night. About 400 of them there. But they knew the whole catalog, and they were just loving what we were doing. So we know there's a place for this band in the tribute world.
Well, I think that's great because, Adam, I got to confess that, again, when I contacted you about setting up this interview, I'm not even as big of a Supertramp fan as you. I mean, I can also kind of like you're saying, I'm aware there's a band Supertramp. I've heard the name. I honestly can't name one single song. I bet, like you said, if I came to one of your shows, I'd hear some of the tunes. Oh yeah, I've heard that tune before. But that's kind of a great, I think, thing you're doing. Playing these tunes. You're reminding people who come to your shows that there's a band Supertramp, and they do have these hits, and you've probably heard these songs before, but this is our take on them. And I think that's a great thing. As opposed to being just another Led Zeppelin tribute out there. You guys are reminding people of this great band that has kind of been forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess the next question, like you're saying something about Supertramp's management. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, Roger Hodgson is exceptionally protective of his property, which are all the songs that he and Rick wrote, and he and Rick Davies don't see eye to eye on a lot of
things,
Supertramp related issues. Anyway, they are the only band that we know of so far. I got the two examples to cite for you, which is they're both kind of a bummer for us, but we don't care.
Uh-huh.
We're gonna soldier on. We're gonna wear them both down. As far as we know, Rick Davies is not all that concerned about it, but we know Roger is. And there's a company called Evergreen. I can't remember what the Evergreen something.
Okay.
They're a legal firm, near as we can tell, whose sole purpose is to monitor YouTube for copyright infringement of their clients' copyrighted material. So we couldn't put a YouTube video up of us playing a Supertramp song and have it last there for more than probably a couple hours.
Wow.
I mean, literally a couple hours. They also have YouTube take down any video on which a Supertramp track might be playing in the background.
Wow, wow.
Isn't even the focus of the video, they'll take it down. So,
Wow.
so there's that. And then the current guitar player who's been with Supertramp now for over 20 years is a phenomenal guy named Carl Verheyen, and he lives here in Conejo Valley where I live, and I know him, and I got to talk to him a year ago, May, when I was going to start this band. I had him on my stage, and I was stage managing an event, and I told him, hey Carl, I'm going to put the Supertramp band together, and he said, oh, that's great. I said, what does management think of that? He says, they're not pro tributes. He said he got an offer to fly on a business trip, a business class round trip ticket to Europe to go sit in with one of the two Supertramp tributes that is there. They're big there in Europe.
Yeah.
Huge in Europe. And management. Oh, and $5,000 on top of that. And management told him he couldn't go.
Wow, wow.
So that's how tight these guys are about it. Which is sad on a number of levels. I hope someday they'll either give up the ghost or bands like us will, break them down and they'll understand that, we're fans playing their music. We're not out to make a mint to do it or steal their property. And it only elevates their standing in the public. That's putting their music out there. So, some bands get it and some bands don't.
Yeah.
Our friends Led Zeppelin have a Jimmy Page on their homepage.
Wow, wow.
He loves Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I actually interviewed the singer Swan, and he was telling me when they did that show for Celebration Day, a couple years back, that the guys in Led Zeppelin actually invited him and his band to that show, and they sat backstage and hung out and watched the actual show. So that's how cool some of these guys are. And
flew them to London.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, as far as your band, Fool's Logic, do you guys ever have trouble as far as deciding other bands that you can do shows with? Is it hard to find a good match of when you're coming up with the bill or something?
Not really. It's because we're still pretty new. There's some bands that really make good sense for us, and it's just the opportunity has to present itself where it's a double bill. Zeppelin knows us and loves us. We're good friends with those guys, and I'm sure when an opportunity arises to do a show with us, we will. One of the drawbacks to us doing a double bill like that is the span of time it would take between bands, because our setup is pretty big. So it's 6 guys, 2 of which play 5 keyboards, although I think we're going to reduce that to 4 here pretty soon. But we set our keyboards up in a horseshoe featuring the Wurlitzer out in front, and those guys are actually up on the drum riser where you would normally find the drummer, and then since I'm one of the 2 lead singers, I move the kit down to stage left, right at the apron. So I'm one of the guys up in front on my kit on one side, and then her bass and our Roger Hodgson guy Tom in the middle, and then our sax player Patrick on the right side.
Oh, okay. Now, another reason I started doing these interviews with guys like you playing tribute bands is to educate people, because a lot of people, as you probably know yourself, Adam, have a great misconception about tribute bands, such as Fool's Logic. They're thinking, you guys are failed musicians, you're making money off of other people's music, but that's really not the case. I've been to a lot of these shows, and I've seen all the hard work that goes into it. So that's why I love talking to guys like you. So my next question I'd like to ask is, could you explain to people, because I imagine you've been a professional musician for many years now, why did you finally decide to go the tribute route rather than continue trying to make a living recording and writing your own music?
That's a great question. I've been a musician almost my whole life. I didn't have any choice. Everybody in my family plays, and so I was born into it. But I've been doing the cover band, playing in bars and rocking out for years and years and years. And of course, I've had great day jobs to support my habit along the way. But I got the opportunity to go out, and I was doing stage managing and event production for years with a friend of mine. And so I'm very well networked, and I had the opportunity to do some road management type activities and sound with the Long Run, the Eagles tribute.
Oh, wow.
I was out with those guys for almost 4 years just to get really gives you the bug to be a tribute act of some kind. And much as I love the Eagles, that really wasn't going to be my cup of tea as far as the tribute band goes. I if I was going to do a tribute, what would fit for me and a couple of the other guys I know. And I've always loved Supertramp, and there wasn't anybody out there doing it. So that's pretty much how it came to be. And I kind of cut my tribute teeth with those guys and Zepp again, and decided that it was worth doing, but there was room for some more bands out there. There's a lot of tribute bands out there. I don't know how many of them are great. I know a lot of great ones, and so I figure if you just go out there and you're true to the music, you had mentioned a little bit ago our interpretation of it, and I guess that's a way to state it. But we don't take a lot of liberties with that catalog at all. We sound like they do, and I think sometimes I feel like we sound even a little bit better than they did live, only because they were limited to being them.
Yeah.
They recorded more than they could play live, and we actually have the firepower to cover every part they did on a recording. So we're actually a bigger band live than they were.
So when you first put the band together, talk about doing your homework. I mean, how much of it went into you guys watching actual Supertramp videos and watching how they move and holding your guitars and your drumsticks, how they do all that? Was there a lot of it?
You said that. When I first got the first bunch of guys together, I sat them all down to watch the Paris DVD live. The DVD from the Paris album in 1979, and the tour in 1979. That was the very first thing we did. I just said, "Here's what we're looking to do, fellas," and here they are. This is Supertramp, and then we set about getting. There's a couple of sheet music books out there. Got a hold of those just to make sure we crossed our T's and dotted our I's. But all of us are long time working pros, and so we figured all the parts out pretty easily.
And so, what do you remember most about your first show? I mean, that must have been a blast, pulling off the very first show.
Yeah, to get it out there for the first time, there's a little. Well, it's not so little. There's a restaurant here in Thousand Oaks called JROCK Restaurant. It's a bar and a pizza joint with all kinds of food. They're more than just pizza.
Yeah.
But it's a big room, and you can get a few hundred people in there. And so we got a couple hundred plus in there. They all knew it was coming, and there were only 5 of us at the time. So we were really just like Supertramp was live at that time. And the reaction to we had 10 tunes down, pretty darn good, and just did a friends and family sort of an event there, and people were very enthusiastic. So we knew we were going down the right path.
So I see you guys have played recent shows in Fresno and El Paso, like you're saying. Do you do a lot of local shows, or do you typically go to other parts of across the U.S. and play bigger shows and stuff?
Yeah, our goal obviously is to be a national act, and hopefully, within a year or two, we'll catch the ear of Europe, and they'll want us to come over and do their summer concerts in the park there. Because I think now, even though we're only a year and a half old, I really feel like we give any Supertramp band out there more than a run the park, and so as the peak season starts up here in November for most of the summer concerts in the park and stuff, we expect to be busy at those, and probably locally I'll say Southern California at first, but we're prepared to go anywhere. As I mentioned, we just came back from El Paso last week, so we're ready to go wherever, whenever.
Because right now you guys are kind of at the stage where you're still trying to get the name of the band out there and people to know about the band. So I was curious if you played a lot of dates so far, or are you kind of just picking up dates as you go?
Our policy is that we're going to play out somewhere. No deeper an interval than about 4 weeks. So somewhere every month we're going to be in. If we have to do a local rehearsal in quotation, then we'll do it. We have our local home base to play.
Mm-hmm.
The great restaurant and brewery in Agoura Hills called The Lab. The Lab Brewing, and that's our home base. And so we have a gig coming up at Vitello's in Studio City here on the 28th, but we didn't have anything lined up in November. December is generally kind of lean.
Yeah.
So we're picking up some new tunes though, so we sort of welcome the time off right now. But we're going to be back at the Lab in November, and then another little niche place for us is a wonderful little venue in Altadena called the Coffee Gallery backstage, and a lot of the bands that we've talked about so far, like Death Again and Long Run, and probably a lot of others we can name off that are LA local working tributes, play this venue acoustically.
Wow.
They'll go in and do an acoustic set there. We're one of the few tributes that comes in there and actually blows the roof off the place, because Supertramp really doesn't lend itself to acoustic sets. So we play softer. We go in there and fine tune our set for the wonderful folks who come and see us there at the Coffee Gallery backstage. So that's the bulk of our local playing.
And so, do you guys have like a group of hardcore fans? I mean, you ever see like the same people coming out to see you? People, following you on Facebook, and they come out to all the gigs and that? Because that's one thing I've seen.
We do. We've got a small but mighty band already of folks that, particularly locally, quote unquote, but between here and Orange County, they'll come and see us wherever we play. They love it, and we mix up our sets, to make sure that they're not seeing the same thing every time, and we're adding gems all the time. So, there's some. I mean, there's a hunger for this catalog to be out there, and we're gathering these fans as we go along. So
Yeah, and one thing I think is really great about tribute bands like you guys is I'll never forget, I went to see this Guns N' Roses tribute for the first time called Hollywood Rose, and as a matter of fact, the singer Colby Vale, he looks just like Axl Rose. He sounds like him, 1987 all over again. And the cool thing about it was when I went to see the band for the first time, that's if you think about it, that's as close you're ever going to get seeing Axl and Slash play on stage again, probably. And the band was that good that I had to pinch myself for a minute, like, am I at a Guns N' Roses show, or where am I? And again, it was a show taking place at the Whiskey, but they were that good. And I think, bands like you, that's what you do for the audience. You take them back in time to when they were younger. It's like a lot of the people, it's a soundtrack of their life, and it might just be one concert one night, but you're taking them back in time, so to speak. And if the band and musicians, are that good, you guys are providing a great service for your audience.
You're taking the words right out of my mouth. There's no greater feeling really than to be there. At the end of Saturday night, we played at the Tala Casino there near Temecula.
Okay.
And we had a couple hundred, 250, 300 maybe. I think 300 by the time we were done. Most of them were on the dance floor at the end, but there's just nothing better than when we go into give a little bit, and they're all on the dance floor, swaying back and forth, singing the song with us. that's why we get out there and do what we do. We just love that, being able to bring that there to people. You know, that's why I go to shows and why you go to shows, and you know, we want that kinship with the music. It almost doesn't matter who's playing it.
Yeah.
It's nice when it's the original band, but if you can't have the original band anymore, you might as well have us.
I mean, you must have people after shows come up to you guys and you know, telling you similar stories. Oh man, you know, you guys were as good as a real band. You guys took me back. I was just like seeing the real band, because you know, that's the other thing. Like you said, Supertramp doesn't tour that much these days, and you know, and if they do come to somebody's local town, you know, it might cost people a little more money to go see the real band as opposed to seeing Fool's Logic, which might be the next best thing, you know. And so, so I was going to ask you, does this, when you guys make up a set list, does it ever get hard as far as, like you said, you're a musician in the band, but you're also a fan. Does it ever get hard separating? Well, we got to play what the audience wants to hear, not what we want to play.
Yeah, we get a little, the pressure for us is a lot of the venues. Well, not a lot. Many venues representatives will say to us, well, we want somebody that has the people on their feet the whole time.
Yeah.
The Supertramp catalog really doesn't lend itself to nonstop dance on the dance floor. But we can put probably a 75-minute set together that has them on their feet the whole time, and we demonstrated that this last week on our 3-day swing. People were out there in front of the band, having a good old time. I dare say we're not as dance oriented as maybe ABBA.
Yeah.
But we're okay with that, because we're also appealing to the musicians in the crowd and the people that are like us that love to come and see this. And so we don't feel like we have to be a dance oriented act. But we do get that a little bit. We're like, well, these songs are pretty up tempo, and we can arrange our set so that people, there's a peak period where people might be out there on the dance floor for some.
And I got to ask you, do you have a favorite song you enjoy performing during the show, or is there a favorite Supertramp album you have of all time?
It's like, who's your favorite kid?
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to beat Breakfast in America, but I got to tell you that the close seconds are Crime of the Century and Crisis What Crisis, and even in the quietest moments. I mean, there's some songs, that song in particular, the album Even in the Quietest Moments has the track Even in the Quietest Moments. It's one of my favorite songs in the catalog, but I sing Goodbye Stranger. That's one of the funner songs for me to play and perform for people. I just love that, and Bloody Well Wright's in there, and so it's tough to have a favorite. I just love the whole catalog. Although we don't do anything so far, and I don't think we'll get to this place, off the first couple of albums. There was Supertramp and Indelibly Stamped, and that was really before they changed direction to become the more, I don't want to say pop-oriented, but they were certainly steering the ship more towards commercial success than pleasing themselves artistically. Some of those songs were pretty obscure in the old days. So, but they really had a great body of work for 4 albums there. We love all of them. The group of us love all of them, and so we're slowly adding.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, last year I know that they put out like an all-star tribute to Supertramp, a CD of music. Have you had a chance to hear that? And I was curious what your thoughts were on that.
I've heard a little bit of it. I haven't heard the whole thing, but I like it. I mean, I like the idea, and it seems like the tracks I've heard, they're pretty straightforward. It's those guys singing their tunes almost exactly like they did, and that's cool. I love that kind of stuff. So, and then hopefully,
I was curious. When you're helping your friends in Led Zeppelin and The Long Run, were you surprised when you were helping these guys, put their shows together? working behind the scenes, to see kind of the kind of audience there was for these tribute bands. I mean, did that shock you at all when you first started?
Yeah. Let me make sure I don't confuse you. I was only out with the Long Run.
Oh, okay.
I've been to several Zeppelin. There's this incestuous thread that runs through tribute bands that you're probably aware of. The bass, mandolin, keys, and pedals player in Led Zeppelin, Jim the Great, Jim Wooten, is also the lead bass player, and Timothy B. Schmidt, vocal in the Long Run, has been for years. So Zeppelin is the primary band for him, and so hence my love for Zeppelin. Although once anybody who's even a mild Zepp fan sees them, they're hooked. So, but to see him is to love them, and both of them. But now I've lost the thread of what you asked me.
I was saying, like me myself, I started doing these interviews with guys like you because I was just amazed, when I seen a lot of these tributes, how successful they become. I mean, you even look at a band like Atomic Punks. The singer Ralph Senez. He's now the guy fronting Steel Panther. He left the Punks for a while to do L.A. Guns, which is Tracy Gunn's band, and he left L.A. Guns to go back to doing David Lee Roth because he had more success doing that. And I was just asking you, when you were working with the Long Run, were you at all surprised to see the success you could have if you had a good bunch of musicians to put on the right show?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. Well, I don't know if surprised is the right word. I was pleased to see the kinds of crowds that would come out. And when it's a giant crowd like that, here's the difference between a lot of the bands. Usually when it's a giant crowd, you go see a concert in the park. It's a free show, so everybody's coming out to see the band because they liked the original band, and they hope that the band that's representing whoever it is, the Eagles, let's say in this case with the Long Run, is going to be a great representation of the band. Long Run and Zeppelin have more than proven themselves as capable representatives of the bands that they emulate. Zeppelin is, you've talked to Swan. He's, for all intents and purposes, he is that young. He's not young, but he is that young Robert Plant from back in the day when he gets up there. His talent is just incredible, and that goes for everybody in that band. Those guys are Zeppelin now for us. Even though the Eagles are out there, still doing their thing, they weren't for a long time. So, and who knows how long they're going to keep it up. So the crowds that these guys built, they built when money is on the line. They still come out to see them. I'll add DSB into the mix. Don't Stop Believing, because Juan is just such a brilliant Steve Perry. It's Juan Del Castillo, and you're going to fill that in just now, but he's so sounds like Steve Perry. Gives everybody the opportunity to live Journey as they were. So that's what I think. That's the thing that keeps people coming back. But the great crowds, they're huge when it's free. It's how big are they going to be when the ticket's $15? And only a few of the bands that I know of can really pull that off. And Zeppelin is certainly one of them. People come out of the woodwork.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's one of those things where the cream really rises to the top. I mean, like mentioning, Atomic Punks, Led Zeppelin. These are bands that have been around for quite a while now. Like you said, they put their mark out there, and people are still going to their shows. And that's the thing is people, have this misconception. Oh, they're just playing other people's music, but let me tell you, that's the difference to me between a cover band and a tribute band. You could go to see anybody, play Stairway to Heaven for the 1000th time or whatever, but when you go see like Led Zeppelin, like you said, he looks like Robert Plant. They sound like the band, they dress like the band. You almost got to pinch yourself. You think you're going back in time to 1975, and they're that good, and that's the difference between, a group of guys just get up and doing a bunch of covers, and then there's bands like you and Led Zeppelin that they want to look like the band, they want to dress the part. It's what I like to call Las Vegas rock and roll theater, and that's really the difference, and that's what I say. That's the difference between a tribute and a cover. And people go to see a tribute band, they're going to get their money's worth for the most part, because I really can't say I've really seen a bad tribute, because a lot of these bands, like you guys are doing it out of a love for the, in your case, out of a love for Supertramp, and you're playing the music you grew up on, and you're bringing people to the shows, and that's what it's all about for me,
Yeah, me too.
And so I was going to ask you, outside of Fool's Logic, are you involved with any other bands or musical projects, or is this what you're doing full time now?
I have a couple of classic rock cover bands that I'm not allowed to get away from, because one of them I founded years ago with another friend of mine who passed away, and so that band, the rest of us in that band, which is called the Big Ugly Dummies, were a little bit of an institution here in the Conejo and Ventura and LA County areas for years, and after my friend passed away, we said, that's it for us. But every once in a while, somebody who knows us from those years will call us up and say, "Can I have the rest of you guys come play my event, my party?" And gives us a nice excuse to get together. And so, yeah, just mildly. But my main focus, of course, is Fool's Logic. And I don't go out with the long run anymore. But I do go see them when they're in my neighborhood, and Zeppelin and all the rest of our friends out there who do this. The folks in Pretzel Logic, who have been around for quite some time, we're trying to get a show together for the two of us, because we think that's just a great pairing, Steely Dan and Supertramp. And
wow, yeah, that would be.
Logic in our name, which is even more amusing. So,
wow,
we work on that kind of stuff. So,
well, that's cool. That's
we'll
cool.
see where that goes.
And then other thing I'd like to ask you is, being that you're a drummer, I always love to ask people, in your case, like, why did you choose the drums as your instrument of choice?
I didn't. I grew up playing the flute when I was a wee lad, and I mean about 3 years old. I picked up the flute and started fooling around with it, and that's what I played all through grade school. Although when I turned 8, the incessant tapping, me tapping on tabletops and coffee tables and stuff, led my father to put me in front of a drum kit. But I wanted to be Ian Anderson when I was a kid. So,
wow.
And that's still an option for me, because I don't think there's a whole lot of tributes out there to Jethro Tull. That's another story. Anyway,
yeah.
I fell in love with the drums, and so from the time I was 8, I was playing both instruments, although I was really majoring in flute, and through school, and I loved it. But by the time the hormones kicked in, I realized that I wasn't going to get as many girls with the flute as I was with the drums, and so I put my heart into it as a teenager, and it just kind of stayed with me. So
wow.
I realized I had a knack for it.
Wow, yeah, and did you have, once you started taking up the drums, was there a drummer in particular that really influenced your playing?
Oh my goodness, so many. Back in the day, well, let me think about that. Steve Gadd was a huge influence on me when I was young. When I heard 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover for the first time, that was really, I think, one of the first albums that sent me to the woodshed with the sticks in my hand to see if I could get those beats down. He's a true original. Wasn't a big, I certainly appreciated the greatness of Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, and mostly of Louis Bellson. I was actually a pretty big Louis Bellson fan of those jazz guys, but that wasn't the direction I was going in. So early on, it was guys that played on the records of James Taylor and Carly Simon and Elton John and and then shortly thereafter, Toto. And I had actually come to know the Porcaros. Honestly, my uncles went to high school with the Porcaros, the Porcaro boys. And
Okay.
I was a huge fan of Jeff Porcaros and Toto. Toto was really the biggest band that got me busy on drums.
Okay.
At that time.
And it sounds like you kind of already answered it. I was going to ask you about my experience with talking to a lot of these tribute bands is that unlike if you're in an original band, where a lot of the original bands are competing with one another, the tribute scene, it seems like the bands are all you're all working the same scene and all helping each other out. Hey, we need an opening band on our bill. Would you guys like to come open for us? Seems like there's a real kinship among the tribute bands out there.
There is. You could have an expectation that it's cutthroat, but it really doesn't seem to be. And it's certainly, if there's any cutthroat aspect to it at all, it's subtle. It's not overt. We're all know that we're in the same pool here, and we're all just trying to do what we do. And so, yeah, I've noticed that it's been a pretty nice experience. There are three big, my experience with the Long Run.
Yeah.
Kind of forced me to observe that on some level. There's only one other Eagles tribute that plays in the area, and it seemed like the Long Run just seemed to be busier than those guys.
Yeah.
The biggest quote unquote Eagles tribute in the country is acknowledged to be Hotel California. And those guys don't stick around here. They get in their own tour bus that they own every summer, and they take off for 16 weeks all across the United States. So
yeah,
it really is a nice, I'll call it a symbiosis that goes on between us. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Certainly, we don't have a competition on the Supertramp front, but we are all competing for time slots at these various events. So we think there's enough events to go around, and that the best bands will get most of the work.
Yeah, now I was going to ask you, as far as like we were just saying about, there's not a lot of Supertramp tributes out there. Do you think that's one thing that's kind of working for you? The fact that, like I said, there's, half a dozen Led Zeppelin tribute bands, and so when you're trying to get a gig, you're the only one out there, so, and there's a bit of a Supertramp fan base, so it makes it a little easier for you guys to get gigs?
I think so. I think a dynamic that was in play, for instance, at Speaking Rock, I mentioned that a lot of the folks in the audience were wearing a hard rock.
Yeah, that's funny.
Decades past.
Yeah.
We were a breath of fresh air, quote unquote. They really love the hard rock scene there. They love. If there was a Slipknot tribute in there just a few weeks ago, from what I understand, crying out loud. So that's the kind of stuff they like. So we were a departure, and obviously a welcome departure for those folks there who I guess were getting beat about the head and shoulders with hard rock band, which is great. We were the break, I think, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Long Run's going in there this week. Interestingly, they're going to be there. So also a nice departure from Slipknot and Warren.
Yeah, wow. And the last thing I was going to ask you, like, compared to when you do a local show, or like when you go to somewhere like El Paso, you guys got to get on the bus or whatever, and it takes you a few days to get there. Do you enjoy that, going on the road and stuff?
Yeah, we like to be on the road. We had to drive I drove 746 miles between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. They flew us into El Paso, which was nice, but we still spent 700 miles on the road together, and it's great. We talk about stuff, and or everybody naps, but it's all good. The time on the road is fun too.
Well, Adam, once again, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And for anybody listening, my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and I've been interviewing drummer Adam Smith from LA-based Supertramp tribute band Fool's Logic, and this is for Under the Influence. And is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up, Adam?
I'd like to say thanks for the interview, and we hope to see all the folks that are listening to this interview at their nearest concert in the park or other concert venue in the days to come.
Okay, well, once again, Adam, my friend, maybe we can do this again down the line. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I can't thank you enough. So you have a nice day, and I'll be talking to you later.
You bet. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.